Brothers and sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice, oh let us all, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed, Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice, Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey, Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the morning to you, everybody. How's everybody doing? Had a printer jam down the hallway, running a little bit slow. I called the tech support people of the Lakey Entertainment Towers in the studio that we call the House of Lakey, different than the cigar studio down the hall. And I called the tech support and realized it's before operating hours, so nobody's here. So I said, Delilah, can you fix the printer? She said, what makes you think I can fix the printer? I said, well, I heard you did tech support at that other job. She says, what other job? I said, I hear that you fix things whenever you're down at the Pink Pony Club doing your little dance routine. She goes, shut up. And then she said, I only fix the fog machine at the Pink Pony Club on dancing night. So evidently, if you need copier repairs or printer repairs, don't call Delilah. But if your fog machine goes out near to the stripping pole, Delilah... Don't throw anything at me. Delilah's the one to call. That's all I can tell you. Everybody, good morning to everybody. How's everybody doing? Jimmy Lakey, my name. It's a glorious day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad that you are in front of the speakers and I'm behind a microphone. And I believe that's just the way the good Lord intended it to be. Amen and hallelujah. All right, good morning, Jimmy and Chad. Somebody said good morning, Aiden, Jimmy, Chad, and Delilah. You're welcome for all of that. I can't believe these guys get greetings here at the Lakey Entertainment Towers. The hipster youth is what I call them. I had a boss one time say, why do you call them the Hitler youth? I said, no, the hipster youth. Skinny jeans, unshaven, unkempt, kind of smelly at times, and working down to the Pink Pony Club. How do you like that pop reference? If you don't listen to some music, you don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, good to have you here on the program. We've got a special treat on the show today. Surprise guest going to hop into the studio. You do not want to miss this. I promise you. John O'Connor, famed attorney from the Watergate era, used to be Deep Throat's attorney. He's going to be with us in just a matter of moments. John Tamney from Real Clear Markets, one of the smart fellows we have on the show. We have them all smart fellows. He's going to be on the show a little bit later as well. And a great special guest. Oh, by the way, good news. Got an email last night that Jay Ratliff is returning to the program today. He's had some health struggles the last couple of weeks. We're glad he's feeling better. He sent me his list of topics that he would like to cover. And welcome back to Jay Ratliff. If you're a Jay Ratliff fan, as many of you are, that will be at Mountain Time. It'll be 9 o'clock Mountain. That'll be 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So Jay Ratliff, our aviation and travel expert, always has some good information. Jay Ratliff back on the program today. All right, a lot of good stories to get to. News stories extraordinaire. Jeff says address for the Pink Pony Club. He has a busted printer. Look it up, Jeff. Look it up. I heard that song the first time. I think it's a great song. And I had to look up the reference. What are they referring to by the Pink Pony Club? And boy, was I shocked to learn what that girl left in Tennessee or Kentucky and headed out to Los Angeles for. She was doing some exploring is what she was doing. All right, good to have all of you here. Anybody watch the CMAs last night? Speaking of good music, I watched it. I don't usually watch award shows, but I have in the last year or so. I would say rekindled my like for music radio. For years, I did not pay attention much to music radio as a news talk guy and always getting news alerts on my phone. And I was just, I just didn't get into the music that much. And part of that was a rebellion against the music industry because I built the Lakey Entertainment Towers and was in the Christian music world for so long, and that's the Nashville crowd, so that's the country crowd. So I have been there, done that, got my T-shirt. I haven't been to a concert in many, many years. And people say, why did you go to concerts? You like music, you're a great talent scout, all these things that I have reputation for being, and you're welcome. I said, well, part of the reason was I was doing the concerts. I never wait in line. I go to the green room. I eat the food, the chef's omelet station. I'm backstage, and all of a sudden I have to go wait in line at a concert with the masses. I mean, I love all of you people, but I don't want to wait in line with you. I don't like crowds that much. So I kind of just kind of didn't pay attention to the music world that much. I kept a little toe here and there, the business side of it. But last night I sat down at the house, the Lakey estate. I sat down and I Didn't even light up a cigar. I'd had a cigar earlier in the day, but I sat in the cigar room. It's a very comfortable room, dim lights, and I turned on the television. And I said, am I going to watch reruns of news stories that I've recorded? I said, forget it. And the CMAs run, and I watched the CMAs. And by the way, a great band that I really enjoy is the Red Clay Strays. They won an award or two last night. Only saw one of their performances. You know what struck me, and maybe it's something you CMA's Country Music Association experts can tell me. A lot of times you get these trite, I would like to thank my God and my agent and my mother, and they do that kind of stuff. Well, last night it was all just pure, I want to thank Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. One guy got upset. Last year I won, and I just said, woo, like Hulk Hogan. And I got home, and my wife said, you didn't even thank Jesus. And she said, so today I just want to say thank you, Jesus. I don't know if that's new. Is that a new trend? I know in the football world, college football players there's literally revival happening among college football teams. Ohio State, most prominently last year. I mean, I think there's a school in Texas, maybe A&M, that the football team was out baptizing people in the public fountains of the school. So you may not see all that. I see it because my son's in the college football world. But I'm just wondering, is all the references to Jesus and seems pretty personal out there. Is all that something new in the country music world? It was pretty explicit and blatant last night. One of my favorite moments of the night, and I'll get onto some news topics if you didn't watch the CMAs, was when I think it was a Morgan Wallen. He walked up on the stage, and what's funny is they scanned the music crowd, and there's the big famous guys up front, and they may have a cup of water, just clear cup, and God knows what's in it. And then there's people drinking out of red Solo cups, which is a country music song in itself. And then a lot of folks, I guess Coors is the official beer of the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, because a lot of people holding just Coors cans sitting out in the audience. They're in their award clothes tuxedos, and they're holding a can of beer. And I said, these are my people. They really are. I think it was Morgan Wallen jumped up on the stage and gave his acceptance speech with his Coors in his hand. And I said, either he was mistaken by that and someone's yelling at him, get the freaking beer off the stage, or he's not mistaken and he's sponsored by Coors or trying to get a sponsorship. I think it was Morgan Wallen. I just saw him. I was paying attention, but my ADD sometimes kicked in, and I stepped out of the room and walked back in, and there's a can of beer. Luke Combs kicked off he had a performance of Back in the Saddle. And a lot of these names, since I got back into country music, I've heard of them, but I had never put name to face. I just don't. I listened to the radio, and I didn't. Lainey Wilson, what a treat she is. She hosted the show, and she I don't know where she gets some of these costume get-ups, but please show up. I'd love to take you to dinner there, Lainey, but you're probably married, so never mind. It was the 59th annual Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. Anybody watch it? I thought it was great. Billy Ray Cyrus got on stage. I didn't know he was still allowed around after he gave birth to Miley. No, just kidding. Billy Ray was there. He went up and they presented a Single of the Year award. Vince Gill was there. He got the Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award. They've only given like 9 of it. He was there. And by the way, it was just flashback to my Christian music industry days because he married Amy Grant after she used to be married to Gary Chapman, and I like Gary Chapman as well. So anyway, she was there with Vince Gill. She looked very lovely for a lady. I don't want to say elderly lady, but for a lady that's older than me, she looked fantastic. But I guess that's what money can get you. Looking good. That could be my future. If I make a little bit more money, I can start looking even better than I do. But I'm afraid to do so. It could cause some of you to, let's say, stumble in your walk with the Lord. You don't want to do that. So I don't want to be that guy. Speaking of stumbling in your walk with the Lord, our surprise guest that's coming up, very likely when he makes one of his first appearances ever on this show, could cause you to stumble in your walk with the Lord. So I'd like you to ask you now the next 17 minutes before our surprise guest arrives, prepare your hearts and ask God that you'd be avoiding of any temptation. Pray that old, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Some of you may have to turn off the video at 8:30 this morning just to see what fine specimens are going to show up on the show. I'm just warning you, prepare your hearts and avoid the temptation that will be thrust upon you. And I hate to say the word thrust, talking about a guest and temptation, but it'll be thrust upon you at about 8:30 this morning. All right, what else we got? The CMA Awards last night. Trump is making another attempt for peace between Russia and the Ukraine. Voters and surveys say, hey, President Trump, could you focus more at home? Let me ask you, it's kind of like the COVIDs. I saw there's so many things that are driven and what we think are priorities are driven by media coverage. And it seems like in this last election, we were told that affordability. Well, affordability has been jacked up in this country, in this state of Colorado, ever since Jared Polis took his lame ass into the governor's office. And that's when affordability went to hell in a handbasket here in this state. Joe Biden hit office and the nation's affordability, inflation went up like crazy. So affordability is an issue. It's been an issue, but in this last election, it became the issue, affordability. And so it's interesting that there's now surveys coming out that voters, quote, in surveys are demanding that Donald Trump focus more at home, focus more domestically, increasingly encouraging him to prioritize domestic issues or risk out a midterm route. And why are we told that? Because we're told that affordability is the key issue. We're told that this is what the driving force is. And so what we're told is basically what the New York communists that voted in Mamdani the Comey and the Virginia far-left Democrats that elected there. Blue states did what blue states did, and they blamed the economy, but they never said the economy was a problem when their guy was in office. But now they say the economy is a problem, and now we're supposed to switch up the whole routine of the Donald Trump campaign because Democrats have supposedly in some surveys defined that affordability is an issue. Affordability is an issue. Prices are coming down. Could they come down quicker? Yes, they could. I would like for them to do that. But it is just fascinating to me that all these surveys now come out that say people are really worried about domestic issues. Well, the domestic issues are worried about are the domestic issues that have been around from Joe Biden. And notice the same media telling you this is the same media that did not tell you that people were concerned about affordability under the auspices of Joseph Rubalad Poopy Pants Biden. So just throwing that out there for you to consider. Trump did promise for the last couple of years that he could end the Ukraine war. And at times he said he'd do it within 24 hours of returning to the White House. Obviously, the battle between Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, that has not ended. And so none of the meetings have resulted in a mutual agreement. There's no basic framework. And so President Trump is making another proposal, his latest proposal, according to justthenews.com, reportedly agrees to core Russian demands and seems to signal increasing urgency to show progress on a peace deal as Americans increasingly sour on the American First Administration for prioritizing foreign affairs. But Donald Trump's not to be denied. He has a 28-point plan reportedly drafted by American and Russian officials. It would require Ukraine to cede the disputed region of Donbass, recognize Russian as an official national language, and accept the Russian branch of the Orthodox Church, cut its military by half, forego various long-range and heavy weapons, and ban foreign troops from its soil. The outlet included commentary from anonymous Ukrainian officials that say the agreement is a non-starter from Kiev, deemed it slanted in Russia's favor. Notably, the reported plan comes amid ongoing corruption scandal in Ukraine that has foreign government officials increasingly concerned about the fate of the foreign aid money. And we talked about that story where Volodymyr Zelensky and some of his cronies seem to be making a lot of money off some of that foreign aid. You know, they're getting some deals and contracts over there. So there's another attempt to get peace on earth in the Middle East and in Ukraine, in Ukraine and Russia. And whether or not that comes about, we shall see. But keep a sharp eye on it. President Trump is determined to do that. Let me ask you, is it just the media that's telling you that affordability is the issue and that Donald Trump needs to turn his eyes towards home? Because nobody was talking about that until this past election. And again, I'll say it like I said, always look into an election. There's always information you can glean from it. But blue states did in that election in early November, early this month, blue states did what blue states were going to do. And it would have been shocking and stunning had Republicans been able to continue like the hold of Virginia. Youngkin winning Virginia's governorship a couple 4 years ago was a big deal but it was a long time ago, and it just however many years ago you had that term. So blue states did what blue states did, and now the entire media narrative is geared towards what the blue state voters said in their exit polls when blue states did what blue states did, and now we're supposed to believe that that's the track of America. I'm just not convinced that I think we need to take everything, glean from it, learn from it. But I'm just not convinced we need to change course so drastically and start acting as if affordability again has been screwed up in this state of Colorado since Jared Polis became our governor. He became our most extreme leftist radicalized policymaker that the state has ever seen. California, where our buddy John O'Connor just popped in the green room, they've been screwed up in affordability for years and years and years. And America's affordability went up with the inflation of Joe Biden. So people like for these surveys to act like affordability is a new issue. It's been an issue, and it's been an issue where in places run by the blue party, the Democrat Party, California, Colorado, Virginia, New York City. Who runs those cesspools of humanity? It's Democrats. So anyway, I digress. I just throw this out there. I find the headlines to be quite interesting that we're all supposed to think that affordability is suddenly everybody's issue. No, it is an issue. Don't get me wrong, but it's really an issue in some of these states that have been run by Democrats. It really is. All right, good to have all of you here on the show. Jimmy is my name. I was hoping he wasn't going to stand me up, and sure enough, there he pops right in just on time. He's our good friend John O'Connor, attorney extraordinaire. I'll give you kind of his bio line, and we'll just jump right into him. He's the author of Postgate: How the Washington Post betrayed Deep Throat, covered up Watergate, and became today's partisan advocacy journalist. I'm sorry, my screen is moving and I'm not reading fast enough. He's also has served as an assistant U.S. attorney in Northern California, representing the U.S. in both criminal and civil cases. And again, the name of his book, podcast, he's got a couple of books out, but the Postgate book, we can talk about that. And again, the original book is How the Washington Post betrayed Deep Throat, covered up Watergate, and began today's partisan advocacy journalism. That said, he didn't stand me up. He's waiting patiently for me to shut up. His name is John O'Connor. John O'Connor, good morning, sir.
I mean, I can listen to you all day, buddy.
Oh, you're very kind. Say it again. No, just kidding. Last time I talked to you, you were going off to a Halloween party for a crypto billionaires party or something that lived down in the big houses down, in the valley somewhere. How'd the party go?
Well, I decided not to go because people from all over come to this one area, and it would have taken me a half an hour to get in. The line was so long. And then there's these other places. Everybody outdoes each other with these elaborate parties. They're not like my youth. And I thought, something? I don't think this is for me. It's a little bit. So I repaired to my local watering hole and had a fine time. So
good for
there
you.
we are. But we were talking about that is interesting. Affordability. These areas that I went to, these sort of conjoining areas, everybody's, if not a billionaire, they're pretty close to it. And of course, then they have these elaborate parties. But that's California. You have some very, very wealthy people because it is a golden state and you can do well here. But for the regular person who has a regular job, it has been, and this has been going on now for ever since I've been here. I've been here for over 50 years. People move out of state. They can't take it. They can't afford it. And that's really what it is. These blue states, everything they do is wrong. From taxes that are too high and everybody has to pay those taxes. The ability to build a house, to build apartments is very tough. Building anything. So it just gets to the point where you can't live here. $6 gasoline and mortgages that are out of sight. So it's really something. A starter home here, Jimmy, you better have at least $1.5 million to have a starter home. Now that's not a grand mansion. That's a starter home.
Yeah. As I said, California has been unaffordable for years. I spent a small stint in Northern California, and we were making good money. Lived in a very nice loft in the San Jose area, an area called Santana Row. I mean, right below me where it was professional athletes. We all shared the same neighborhood. It was great, but it was expensive. It really, really was. And I can't imagine if the places other than that, you're like, I don't want to live there. I want to live here. And fortunately, we were able to do so. But good Lord, it's a lot of haves and a hell of a lot of have-nots in my experience there.
Sure, absolutely. The Gatlin brothers did a song that basically was all the gold in Beverly Hills, all the gold in California is in a bank in Beverly Hills in someone else's name. That's the
Yeah.
Gatlin brothers.
Yeah, was it the Gatlin brothers who also had the great song "She Got the Gold Mine" and I got the shaft? They split it right
Yeah,
down the middle, and she got the better half. And that was a
right,
great,
right,
a great.
exactly,
That's a great
exactly.
divorce song. That was fantastic. All right, let's
Right.
jump into the topic I brought you on here. A lot of other things happening in the news. We're drinking from a fire hose half the time, trying to digest it. The news cycle moves very quickly. There's been some interesting moves in the case against James Comey that I'd like to get into. The interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan is defending her handling of the grand jury proceedings. She's come under criticism for that. Resulted in 2 criminal charges that people remember against former FBI Director James Comey. But some people are saying that there's some signals that this may not go well for the U.S. government or the prosecution. Are we missing something? What's up with the Comey case?
First of all, it won't go well. And I've written an article, Jimmy, that says basically that this case never should have been brought. I don't like James Comey, and I think there's a way to indict him. This isn't the way to do it. So, in a way, I'm hoping it dies a death before it gets to the jury. Now, because for various reasons that I may not want to bore you with, that this case is not winnable. It's not winnable. The questions asked by Ted Cruz that Comey punted on, he never really directly answered. And it's just for various technical reasons, it's not going to make it. Now, here's what's happening now. In a way, Halligan got a bad rap here. What she did was she presented a 3-count indictment to the grand jury. The grand jury only voted for 2 of them to go forward. Okay, so that's fine. Later on, what she did, realizing and she had a deadline here with the statute of limitations, without the full grand jury there, she simply pared down the indictment to the 2 charges that the grand jury had voted on. And then she brought that new indictment to simply the foreman. And there might have been one other person, one other grand juror, and the foreman signed it. So that seemed to the journalists to be just a terrible faux pas that the grand jury didn't really return this indictment. That's a lot of nonsense. I mean, you can do that. You don't need to have a full grand jury vote on correcting the form of the indictment if there's a clerical error or something like that. So it's kind of, that was a big bunch of nothing. Now, having said that, there are some more substantive hearings on December 9th. And I think this poor girl is going to get raked over the coals. I just think that for various reasons. Now, she also said some things to the grand jury that were not correct. She told the grand jury that, for example, it's okay to issue this indictment because we have a lot more proof than we've given to you. You can't say that. And then the second thing is she said, don't worry about it. James Comey will testify at trial. So, which is not, he's not required to do. He's got a constitutional right not to self-incriminate. He has a Fifth Amendment right. So she said some things that were sort of stupid, that she doesn't know any better. She's never done criminal work. So I feel sorry for her that she was put in that position. But what we should all hope, Jimmy, is we should all hope that this indictment goes the way of the dodo bird, because it's just going to make Comey look good. There's no way the prosecution can possibly win it. And I've written a long article about that as soon as I saw it, and I saw the questions and answers. And nobody listens to old Johnny Boy, though.
I understand. I was always the redheaded stepchild of talk radio, so I understand the disrespect, sir. I understand it, and you and I can start a support group, or just go to your local watering hole, and I'll meet you there. It all works out good.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, for folks who don't remember, the charges brought against James Comey have to do with X. I'll let you fill in the blank there, just kind of a general summation. But also, you said there is a way to indict him, and this isn't it. So what was he indicted on, and what does old Johnny, as you call yourself, think the path towards indictment is?
Well, the present indictment is when Ted Cruz hearkened back in 2020, I believe, to testimony that Comey had given in 2017, in which Comey in 2017 denied leaking or authorizing leaking. Cruz then asked him a two-part question, a compound question, which is a no-no. You can't ask him about X and Y. Don't you agree with X and Y? But he did that. He also said, is it your testimony that you didn't leak or you didn't authorize any leaks? And Comey said, I'm going to stand on my prior testimony. Cruz asked him the same question again. He says, and Comey says, I'm going to stand on my prior testimony. Under Supreme Court cases, that answer is literally true. It's not a false statement. I can say I'm going to stand on what I said before. That may be true. And then also it was a compound question. You can't ask somebody if A and B are true, and so forth. So it has to be one or the other. Now, here's the way you indict him. So that case is dead on arrival and will probably get dismissed December 9th, I think. Now, here's what Comey and Brennan and Clapper, together with Hillary Clinton and Jake Sullivan, all got together to hoist a hoax on the American public called Russiagate. That involved false statements to the press, false statements to Congress, false statements to the FISA court, concealment of the truth of what they really knew, concealment of the fact that much of this was information that they tried to dredge up with their own secret agents. They would have them come in and try to foment up this Russia thing. There's plenty of grist for that mill. John Brennan testified in 2023, around somewhere between March and May, I forget which date, in which he denied forcing the Steele dossier into the intelligence community assessment, which everyone then read and thought that the Steele dossier had some validity to it. That's the reason I bring that up, is because this conspiracy stretches at least until 2023. What does that mean? It means the statute does not begin to run into the last overt act, which in this case happened in around March to May 2023. So you still have time to indict Comey along with Clapper, Brennan, perhaps Hillary, perhaps Jake Sullivan, who's the author of the Russiagate hoax. And that's where I think they should go on this, and Trump should get his satisfaction by letting the world know everything that happened in this terrible chapter in American history. But this indictment of Comey is sort of silly, the present one.
Yeah. And so what we gather is that this grand conspiracy investigation that we were told by Kash Patel they have opened in the Department of Justice, that's a real deal and that's a path forward. And that's probably what they're looking at, is this is the grand conspiracy that you just laid out.
Right. And Kash Patel, by the way, and I've talked to him about this way back before he was appointed. He's on top of this. He knows what's going on, and he's pretty good. Of course, he was Adam Schiff's guy when this was going on, and he's on top of this.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more quick question. When we hear, let's say, you hear this story about Halligan getting ripped over the coals at this previous hearing, you're like, oh God, it's another one of those Biden judges. And you say the case may get dismissed in December 9th and thrown to the waters. Sometimes we automatically assume these activist judges are doing very naughty things and they're doing dirty deeds dirt cheap. But you're saying if this judge dismisses this case in December, it's not necessarily because the judge has been hacked by politics. It's probably a fair dismissal.
That's right. I think it is a fair dismissal, and actually, I hope the judge does it, because people will then grumble a lot and all that, but they won't really see how silly the whole thing was. No. I mean, it is the judge will do the right thing here. I'm must tell everyone.
Always great perspective. All right, John O'Connor, Postgate book. Christmas gifts are coming. People need stocking stuffers. They need audiobooks and podcasts to listen to so they don't have to listen to the in-laws fight. I mean, there's a lot of reasons they need to go to your website, postgatebook.com, and I'll let you define all of them, including the Postgate book that started the whole thing.
Well, that's right. Postgate book. And then I've got a book called Mysteries of Watergate, which is takes Watergate and puts it in 34 simple bite-sized little chapters to tell you what went on. If you're a history buff, that's good. Postgate is a lot about how the Washington Post deceived everyone in Watergate, and Watergate was a journalistically impelled scandal, and you see it today. That's what journalists are doing to us today, and that's why I thought the book was so important.
Yeah. Everybody go to the website, postgatebook.com. You also have a podcast that ties into the mysteries of Watergate.
That's right. It's called Mysteries of Watergate. So it's all fun. And I have a bunch of articles on my site. It's kind of fun for your audience to go there. Postgatebook.com.
I've got to confess, I've read the book. I've talked to you many times. I've read the books. I've never taken the time to listen to the podcast. And this time next week, I will be en route to Rwanda for my work at Rivers Promise, which is on the banner behind me, this charity I started. And I'm going to download the podcast. I've just made myself a note where you were talking that I should listen to John O'Connor while I'm flying across to finally hear the podcast. So I'm ashamed to admit it. I haven't listened to the podcast. I have read the book, so I'm safe there, but I'm going to listen to the podcast.
Well, it's fun. It's just a lot of fun. And when you realize how really, I hate to say this, but how innocent the Nixon folks were and how left-footed, and they were very left-footed and awkward, and were led down the primrose path by John Dean, who was not an innocent. That's the irony. There's an awful lot of irony in that scandal. It's just really fairly rich. And the fact that we today are so much more ignorant than the people were in 1800, it's almost comical if you want to put yourself at a remove, but it is comical. But we're living with that. We're living with that idiocy. And, Jimmy, and you've seen it in your work,
Yeah.
The major media just don't get it right, and they don't want to.
No, they don't want to. John O'Connor, it's always a pleasure. I hope I'll talk to you before the Christmas holiday, but have a great Thanksgiving. Next week, I'll be listening to you in my ears while I'm flying over over to Europe and then down South Africa. So you'll be in my head whether I want you to be or not.
Well, I apologize in advance, Jimmy, then. Okay.
All right, John. Appreciate you. God bless you, my friend. John O'Connor, postgatebook.com. I'm serious. That's a great read for the holidays if you're a history buff, and you can get it, and it'll really put in perspective all the crap that we live through now with the media, and we're cursing at them and we're angry. And by the way, if you're listening on the podcast version of the show, where thousands of earballs will hear this show or see this show throughout the course of the day and a week, thousands of you will hear it, and some of you go, I didn't see the screen because I was only listening. Post, P-O-S-T, gate, G-A-T-E, book.com, postgatebook.com. That's how you find it. All of your podcasters out there that listen to us, we appreciate you doing that. Again, we've got lots of folks that stream the show live. We got lots of people that go back and watch the show from the stream. Then we got a lot more that show up on the podcast. So we appreciate all of you. Indeed, we do, postgatebook.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're packed full this morning, and I've got to introduce our next guest. Ladies and gentlemen, I've warned you earlier, even some of you guys that maybe go other ways. I don't want you to stumble in your walk with the Lord. He's made rare appearances on the show, only on emergencies. One time when we first started, that my mic was off and he had to tell me. Ladies and gentlemen, we have asked producer Chad to come onto the screen and identify himself on a very important topic. Ladies and gentlemen, the man behind all the magic that happens, everything that pops on your screen, a warm round of applause wherever you're at for producer Chad. Should I hit the button? There's producer Chad. He is.
There I am.
Hello, producer. You really do exist.
I do.
You do exist. You really do read all the comments. Some of them get on the screen. Some of them don't.
Yeah.
That's behind the scene. You find all the memes, all the offensive memes that I can say I didn't have anything to do with that. That was producer Chad.
I'm the one to blame for those. Yes.
All right. Producer Chad, I brought you on here. We talk about Rivers Promise. As a matter of fact, I'll be honest. You and I have talked when this show started. We're like, man, if we don't get traction or sponsors, and we've got a lot of great listeners, but still would like more sponsors. But we've talked about, well, just turn out the lights. We're like, man, this is a great platform. We've raised a lot of money and interest, and a lot of folks follow Rivers Promise. If nothing else, it's a great avenue to promote that. You and I are pretty passionate about Rivers Promise. You've been to Africa with me. You now serve on the board of directors for Rivers Promise. Talk about Rivers Promise. Why do we push this dang thing so much? And then we have a big announcement here about that.
Well, for me personally, it really goes back to my trip to Rwanda. And there's a picture right there of me and a bunch of little kids at Legacy Christian Academy. we were playing on the playground and stuff, and it's one of my favorite pictures for sure. But to see the impact that Rivers Promise has for yourself in person is really life-changing. I mean, we've talked a lot. You've talked a lot about, maybe helping kids in Africa is not your thing, and that's fair. That's totally fine. If it's veterans or homeless or whatever, then get involved. But for me, it was Rivers Promise and helping give these kids a chance to, as you say, climb out of the pit of poverty through education. And so it's become a passion project of not just me, but me and my wife, and we're always happy to support Rivers Promise. So.
Well, we were doing a drive, and people say, he mentions it all the time, and it gets to kind of be rote, and people say, okay, here goes the Rivers Promise, bitch. Here we go. But it's a passion of mine. It's a promise I made to my son, and I know I can't do everything we're going to do alone. But we're doing a fundraising drive. As you know, I'm heading over next week. We're going to do the Monday show next week. The rest of the show week is off. Yep. Part of that's for travel. Part of that's for Thanksgiving. Then we'll pick up the following week and do some shows from Africa. But I got to... we're doing a drive and kind of focused on general giving, but $25 buys a pair of shoes. I'll go to the market, help pre-buy the shoes. We'll do some shoe shopping, but it's more than just that. It's having kids experience a day of just bliss. They're going to get a Christmas party. They're going to get shoes, and you remember little Steven's shoes. He only had the top and not the bottom. That's a true story. If the bottoms wear out, they still wear the top of the shoes because it's still a commodity over there. So we're $25 buys a pair of shoes. That's kind of the crux of what I'm raising right now. But $10, if that's all you got, you're still going to make an impact. That buys a uniform. $65 sends a kid to school, gets them their shoes as well. I mean, I just give these numbers out, but $25 per pair of shoes. We need to buy hundreds of pairs of shoes in the next couple of weeks, starting next week. And you messaged me last night that you and your wife have decided that you're going to participate in the shoe drive, but you're hoping to inspire some other people to jump into the shoe drive with you. So take it away, producer Chad.
That's right. So what we're doing is we're committing matching funds campaign donation, if you will, up to $500. So if you do 10, we do 10. So we get $20. If you do 25, we do 25. That's $50 to the charity, all the way up to $500. You want to do all 500? We match that. That's $1,000 to the charity. So we'll do that through when you leave. So through the end of the day on Monday, any funds that come in up to $500, we will match. And,
well, I'd like people to get it done today, because I have a feeling maybe somebody else says, you know what, that's a good way to give. I'll give 100, but I'll match 100 only. Maybe other people want to do the same thing, but it's $25, and I'm just going to. So if everybody gives $25 or a portion, maybe you don't do $5, that's fine. I'm just doing the math in my head here because I'm talking, I'm yapping, and I'm reading. That's about, it's a lot of shoes. It's a lot of shoes at $1,000. That's quite a few shoes at $25 a pair. And we need hundreds of pairs of shoes. And I've got photos, I need to pull them up, of last week when we hand the shoes out. You know, you have kids, and I have a son, and at Christmas, there's times that you see them open a present and they're like, oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, like they don't care. It's something they needed. It's new socks. It's new underwear. It's a funny gift that you picked up at the impulse buy at the Target. And they're like, oh, that's great candy. Huh? And they set it aside and they're looking for the big thing. We give these kids shoes for the Christmas party. And we give these shoes at the Christmas party. Their faces light up like they just won a freaking lottery, because for these kids, shoes are winning the lottery. I mean, they literally, many of them spent barefoot their entire life. Yeah,
and for some of them, that's it may be the only pair of shoes they've ever had or will have. And they run around barefoot, throughout the mud and the jungle, and we've seen that firsthand. And you bring up a good point too, that, here in America, we live in such an abundant life that, we take a lot of things for granted. And there, like you said, a new pair of shoes for some of these kids, it is like winning a lottery. And, and not just that, it's not just the gift of a pair of shoes. It's also the fact that we're teaching them about the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ as well, and how to celebrate that. And
Yeah,
I think that's equally as important as the gifts.
I'll tell you how long these kids in this community had been without shoes. I'll tell you this story. When this Rivers Promise named after my son, and so we go over to Africa. We do our thing. And my son, when he was like second, third grade, was a shoe guy. He still loves shoes. I mean, he'll pack a whole suitcase coming home from college of shoes. I'm like, why do you need so many shoes? I think I have 2 pair. I don't know. I don't even know. I just wear the same ones over and over again. They fall out. I go buy another one. I'm not a shoe guy. He's always been a shoe guy. And so when he was little, about second or third grade, he was going over there with me, and he said, "Daddy, what can I do for?" He named some of his friends that he knew were buddies that didn't get adopted, and he says, "I want to buy them shoes." He said he took shoes from his closet. He went and bought some shoes, and he said, "Daddy, let's buy shoes for everybody." I said, "Okay, we'll buy shoes." So we did a little shoe drive, and he actually raised the money at his school. He hassled everybody, and they about 100 pairs of shoes, 50 pairs of shoes. I don't remember. And one little old lady, the first lady I ever built a house for there in Rwanda, she had her shoe. We gave her a pair of shoes. And she was old. She didn't know how old she was. She thought she was about 180. That's what she thought. We think she was probably more like 70, but she did look like she was 180. It's a hard knock life over there. She was like, I think I was, she didn't even know. But we gave her a pair of shoes, and I saw her, and she was very thankful, and she danced in Rwanda. And my son gave her we have photos of it, and I see her and the little old hens talking. You know, they're all cackling at each other. The Rwandan ladies are talking, and I asked my interpreter, I said, "They're laughing and talking about me. What are they saying?" And he says, "Oh, you're just," I said, no, go find out what they're saying. I thought it was funny. And he said, he walked over and asked the ladies, and they got embarrassed. And he came back, he goes, "I'm going to tell you what they said." I said, "What'd they say?" He said, "The old lady you gave shoes to said, I have never worn shoes in my entire life, and I hope he leaves soon because I'm going to fall and kill myself if I keep wearing these things. I can't walk." So she had lived her whole life with no shoes, and her feet look like it. But we buy these shoes for kids. That's our Christmas drive. And so that's how real the shoe problem is over there. And again, I'm all for grounding and touching the earth with your bare feet. But walking to school every day, living in jungles and stuff with no shoes is not a great alternative. We can do better than that. $25 buys a pair of shoes. You and your wife are going to match the next $500 that come in. So if somebody gives $10, you're going to pitch in 10. Someone gives 500, you'll just write the check for the $500, and we're all good. And that's a matching fund donation from producer Chad. He comes out of the bowels of the production room, and we're going to spend producer Chad's money.
That's right. We're going to spend my money, and it's going to go to a great cause. Hey, just to remind everybody, we're coming into the season of giving. We're coming up on Thanksgiving, and I don't think there's a better way to show your thanks than to give a small donation, $10, $25. Look, 20 people do $25. That's that we hit the 500 right there. Real easy. So I hope everybody can find it in their heart to give a little bit, and I'll match it. And let's, as the old saying goes, teamwork makes the dream work. So let's team up and make this happen.
I'll check the status of your $500 match. If any of you'd like to add a match to it, feel free to do so. But I'll be this time next week, I'll be landing in Rwanda, getting ready for work there. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. If you want to donate, it's a 501c3, good for end of year giving. Chad, I got John Tamney, the Green Room. I want to do this, but there's a dear couple that used to listen to me on the radio, terrestrial signal, Ken and Nancy, and they sponsored a boy early on in his life. His name was Donat. And he sent off to trade school, and they thought he was going to have eye surgery. Then we sent him to good eye doctors, and they really went out of their way for Donat. And Donat's now done with trade school. He's a young man. And earlier this year, Ken passed away suddenly. And Donat learned, and Donat wrote a letter and said, "I'm sorry to hear this." So it was an emotional moment. But I got this. When was this? This last night. I got this from Nancy, the widow of Ken. She says, "Jimmy, I want to contribute to your charity, but your emails are going to my late husband's Ken's address. Can you change it so that I can know what's going on?" Also, years ago, they said, "Could you let me have an update on how Donat is doing? Does he need anything?" I'm like, dude, they stopped sponsoring this kid years ago because he's done with it, but they still stay in touch with him. and she goes back on here. It's just amazing the contact that we have with people. Have a great trip in Africa. So she watches the show and knows I'm going to Africa, reads the emails, I guess. But that's the impact it makes that years later, even after her husband has tragically passed on, she still wants to. We still keep in touch with that sponsored kid on her behalf. And for all I know, Donat is married. So I don't know.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And we'll wrap this up so we can get to John Tamney, who's patiently waiting in the green room. But I just saw Noxious Scott just did $250. So we're already halfway there. 10 more people at 25, and we hit this goal. And if anybody else wants to step up and do a matching thing, please do it. We'd be happy to have you team up with us.
So Noxious Scott, you just sucked $250 out of producer Chad's wallet, and we got another $250 in his wallet that he will surrender if all of you will give as well. So we'll give an update by the end of the show. Producer Chad, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon. Producer Chad there jumping in here. Unusual first-time appearance on the show. He's offering $500 for a charity cause. Rivers Promise. Shoes, $25. Do what you can. All right, good to have all of you here on the show. Let me bring in John Tamney to the conversation. I apologize for being a little late here, but it's for a good cause. John Tamney, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
I appreciate you hopping on the program. I have it right here in front of me. You, of course, are the editor of RealClearMarkets.com and also the author of a book called Deficit Delusion, Why Everything Left, Right, and Supply Side Tells You What Everything Left, Right, and Supply Side Tells You that about the national debt is wrong. We'll get to the book here in just a moment, but everybody's talking about affordability after this last election. Affordability has been a problem in some states like California, where I live, in Colorado, where I live. It's been a problem for a long time. Is this a media-driven thing that everybody's now suddenly concerned about affordability? Because affordability has been an issue ever since that inflation started to climb after COVID.
I think you nail it. When has affordability ever not been an issue, particularly in New York City? I mean, the idea that this is a new thing is just so at odds with reality. And my one pushback with you is I remain of the view that it wasn't inflation after COVID. What it was is the fruits of lockdowns that eviscerated global cooperation among producers that naturally leads to higher prices. When you're not producing with as many hands and efficiently around the world, prices, of course, are going to go up. And there's going to be shortages because of what politicians did. They panicked about a virus and shut us down. That's not inflation. That's politicians imposing command and control.
That's a great perspective there. John Tamney, author of Deficit Delusion. We'll talk about the book in a moment. Why Everything Left, Right, and Supply Side Tells You about the national debt is wrong. Editor also of Real Clear Markets, a great website. President of the Parkview Institute, senior fellow at the Market Institute, senior economic advisor for Applied Finance Advisors. So he knows his stuff. So this affordability is kind of a thing that's always been a problem, and now the media's making it sound like it's the issue at hand, but it's been a problem for a long time. It's probably every election. People say they vote their pocketbook. I saw that a couple of stories, and I wanted to get your comment on. I knew you were making some media hits on this. China says, hey, this deal with the President Trump and the U.S., it may not work out because we don't want the rare earths going to your military industrial complex. We don't want to rebuild your military with our rare earths. John, kind of bring us up to speed, not just on the rare earths of China. Most of us up until the last 10, 12, 24 months, rare earths, we didn't know there was a shortage. We didn't understand the crisis here, but now every negotiation, there seems to be topics of rare earths. Is China going to be able to keep these from us?
No way. There's no crisis. And you can tell it by the China decree. What did they say? They say, we don't want to sell the rare earths to military and military adjacent companies in the U.S. Okay, well, so what? They're still going to sell them into the U.S., which means they'll get to military and military adjacent companies, not by force, but because there's no accounting for the final destination of any good. Those they sell to will sell to those that need it. It's kind of like when the Arab members of OPEC embargoed us in 1973. It's not as though we didn't consume their oil after that. We consumed every bit as much of it as we did before. We just bought from those they sold to. If you're producing, you're getting, unless the Chinese literally want to sit on the rare earths and not sell them to anyone, they will reach the United States. This is just this is the media once again. It's affordability this, it's China that. It's just a load of nonsense.
Let's talk about where we're at in this the economy. You've written a book called Deficit Delusion, Why Everything Left, Right, and Supply Side tells you about the national debt is wrong. But there is a headline that was sent over to me and said, have John comment on this. And it is from realclearmarkets.com. And it is a column written by you as the editor of Real Clear Politics. There's no such thing as a K-shaped economy. Talk about the K-shaped economy. What the heck does that mean to the average person?
Okay, well, so let's start with this. When poor people move to Colorado, where do they go for work? Do they go to Denver and, I don't know, Cherry Creek and Boulder, or do they go to Pueblo? I mean, the question answers itself. They go to where the rich people are because that's where the opportunity is. And so when the rich are thriving, there's opportunities for everyone. The K-shaped economy says, well, the rich are making lots of money off of equities, off of their ownership in stocks. Well, stocks only have vitality. They only go up insofar as people are thriving around the country. That companies that started up on Main Street or off of Main Street are really doing well, and they're employing more and more people. Walmart employs, 2 million people around the world, Amazon over 1 million. When the rich are making money, they're making it by definition because the companies that they own are paying their people more and more and employing more and more people. There's just no such thing as this.
Yeah, it is fascinating how with Mamdani and New York, this rise of socialism and democratic socialism, communism in America, there's this war on the rich. And you're right that the reason the rich are able to, they're making a lot of more money because they're employing a lot more people with a lot more productivity. Somewhere we've lost some basic economic skills and assessment in our country. And that's not good for us that we don't understand that.
It's not good, but it's as old as mankind. Let's be clear that if you and I were running the United States, there would be many multiples of Zoran Mamdani. And why? Because you and I are pro-freedom. And where there's freedom, people prosper. And where people prosper, people who want to demagogue all that wealth sprout up. Mamdani we'd never have heard of him if New York City were poor. And we'd never have heard of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and AOC if the U.S. were poor. They are an effect of prosperity. So rather than act like victims, not you and I wouldn't act this way, but some people want to act like victims, say, oh, it's so bad, the world's so mean to us and everything. Let's just say, hey, wait a second. They're nothing to us. We will walk over them. We're too smart for them. We will not allow them to hold us down. We're the most enterprising nation on earth, full of the most ambitious people. They can't keep down the desire within the United States to be great.
I read a piece, and I'll link this out. It's at realclearmarkets.com. That's John Tamny's the editor of the site, and you can find it there. But let me read this paragraph. This is just perspective I think that we're missing out there as the hair on fire media is always telling us one thing. Listen to this. John D. Rockefeller got rich by literally lighting up the night for the masses. Henry Ford became rich by creating cars for the great multitude. Those cars were powered by gasoline, brought to help the masses once again by Rockefeller. And Bill Gates became the world's richest man by helping to make computers that formerly cost over $1 million accessible to the typical household. It's a certain reminder that if the rich are getting richer right now, it's because everyone is living and working much harder. And that is just such an important perspective that it's good to kind of reset us here. All of us. It's a great reset, John.
Well, it's great and it's important because it dovetails with affordability. Why do rich people get rich? They do so by making available to everyone what used to be available to the very few. Apple's the most valuable company in the world, depending on the day. They've literally put a supercomputer in our pockets that would put to shame the computers that used to cost over $1 million, yet they're commonplace for us. Michael Dell is worth all these billions because he made the home computer commonplace alongside Bill Gates. Yeah. Elon Musk is going to do it for us robots that work for us, that are servants into all of our houses at prices that will continue to drop. K-shaped economy presumes that you can get rich by hurting the poor. No, the only way to get rich is by mass producing the luxuries of the rich for the poor and middle class.
No, that's fantastic. I'm thinking of now, I'm going back to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders out there on their oligarchs tour. The oligarchs, always screaming about the oligarchs. And I remember one time, Rush Limbaugh, back in his radio days, said to get the bottom half of your television screen. I think it was during an Obama State of the Union, and just tape a sign that says he's lying. And everything he says, you'll just see the subtitle like it says realclearmarkets.com. Your television will just say he's lying the entire time. And I'm thinking every time you hear AOC or Bernie Sanders scream, the oligarchs, they do that. You need to do it with that perspective of they're lying. It's not the truth here.
Mm-hmm. It's the opposite of the truth. You get rich one way. And again, think of this in terms of affordability. If you want greater affordability, you increase the number of hands and machines at work in creating goods and services. I mean, isn't it funny? The reason Americans are frustrated about affordability is they're so used to things becoming affordable. Let's never forget that when the 21st century began, a flat screen TV was a luxury that no one had. It cost $25,000. And then that became commonplace. And then they said, well, we've got this new thing. It's the UH4 4D flat screen TV, $25,000. Now you get them for a few $100s. This is what capitalists do. They push prices down relentlessly, and they're rewarded with huge net worths for it as a result. And when it's not happening fast enough, when in fact inequality isn't growing fast enough, that Americans get frustrated. We have a problem of not enough inequality, not too much. The K-shaped economy is not only wrong-headed, but it mistakes what makes Americans better off.
Yeah. It's you go to these communist countries. There's not. I was just sitting where you're talking, counting how many flat screens I have in my home, and there's a lot. I mean, I've got a lot of them. I remember the first one weighed 100 billion pounds. It was a plasma, and LED won out, but I went plasma. It was kind of like Betamax versus VHS. I judged wrongly on that, but getting rid of that thing was a boat anchor. But that was expensive. I remember my first plasma TV. It was very expensive, and now you're like, shoot, I think I've got one in 5 or 6 in my home right now. And you go to a commie country, they ain't got one. They're going to watch the soccer match at the very best down at the pub because nobody can afford that damn television.
That's right. Yeah, it's in the countries where they muzzle the genius of the individual when they try to push down an inequality, that there's very little affordability for people, and there's very little living standard to speak of.
Yeah, I guarantee you those commie countries, you know who has the flat screen TV? The oligarchs. They got it. They got the flat screen. Everybody else is in a bread line. Here we have the flat screens. John Tamny, talk about this new book, Deficit Delusion, Why Everything Left, Right, and Supply Side tells you about the national debt is wrong.
Well, it's just a book that makes a point that we have debt not because of too much government spending or not enough government revenue, but because we have too much government revenue. Precisely because revenue from rich taxpayers grows and grows and will continue to grow by leaps and bounds. Everyone wants to lend to us. And so I'm merely making the point that if you really want to bring the debt down, you've got to reduce taxes on the rich so much that what they hand over to the government plummets. And in doing so, you make the U.S. less of a good loan, all the while driving up innovation in the U.S. to levels that have been unseen. All this wealth annually going to government that's not going to the next NVIDIA, the next Apple, the next Amazon. We are the richest country on earth, but we are Bangladesh relative to what we could be if government weren't receiving so much of the wealth produced by the rich on an annual basis.
John Tamny, it's always a pleasure, my friend. If folks want to copy the book, it's called Deficit Delusion. That's available Amazon. I know you're out there involved in a lot of activities. You have a lot of different places of the web. Where can people follow the work and the brilliance, I'll call it, of John Tamny?
Well, you can buy all the books of mine you want on Amazon. I'm also on Twitter. I see that was flashed on the screen. Come to Real Clear Markets every day. I usually put out at least one opinion piece per day. There's so much to be optimistic about, and I'm trying to show people why they should be optimistic while educating them on the fallacies of economics that are taught to them by left, right, and in between.
I got to tell Kim, Sutton, AJ, all the people, I got to get you on more often. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy.
You got it, John. Thank you. Safe travels, you said. I don't want to get rid of that wish. Thank you very much, John.
Yes.
You got it. John Tamney, by the way, thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day. And TAMNY, if you're hearing it on the podcast version, as opposed to watching it on the stream, we always want you to make sure you know how to find it. So again, thousands of earballs will hear this show and or see this show. But some of you don't see it. Sometimes you're like, well, how did he say that? And I'll tell you a story about it sometime about it. It took me 3 months to find a product I wanted that a friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine was pushing on the radio, but I couldn't get a response back. I have a general email. Anyway, finally found it, bought it. Fantastic. But I didn't know what he was saying. I didn't understand it. So John Tamney, JOHNTAMNY. All right. Before I go to my next guest, Jay Ratliff, he's back. I told you he's keeping your prayers, just going through a couple of health things, but he's back in the saddle again here this morning. Bring Jay in here to the topic of conversation about aviation travel. But I want to give you the breaking news we broke at the bottom of the hour. Producer Chad popped onto the studio. And as you know, next week I am heading to Rwanda and going to check out there. And producer Chad opened up his own wallet and said he'll match the next $500 of donations. So I know Scott just jumped in with $250. There's Lisa saying she's going to raise that to $350. She's just donated $1. I think I saw $25. So we're at $375. Producer Chad and his wife will match up to $500. So we need to meet that match. We need another $125 or so. If we go over, maybe somebody will step up and match that as well. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know, but just keep going and we'll let you know. Just let us know. Producer Chad, matching gift today, $500. He and his wife will contribute for the purchase of the Christmas gifts next week. I'll go over there. We'll start doing that. So if you'd like to participate in the last 15 minutes, the match is almost gone, but go riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jay Ratliff, we're glad to have him back. We've been praying for him, knowing that, sometimes life gets a little painful. It just knocks you down for a couple of weeks, but you're back in the saddle, Jay.
It's good to be here. Yeah, it was Bell's palsy. I've never had that before. I was getting ready for church the last Sunday in October, looked in the mirror and the left side of my face, drooping. So I went to the ER immediately, as you're supposed to do. And they said it was Bell's palsy, viral infection, mild. And it would take days, weeks, or months. They didn't know for everything to kind of get back where it needed to be. So I've been able this week to kind of resume a somewhat normal radio routine. So it's great to be back. No real pain associated with it. Just the inconvenience of, you got to drink coffee out of a straw. And, my family didn't seem to mind the fact I was talking less. That was probably the biggest concern of mine through all of it. I didn't know exactly how to take that.
Well, welcome back, sir. I appreciate you being in. And next week will be Thanksgiving, and I'll be giving thanks that you're a part of the program and back with us this week. And hopefully the next time I talk to you, I'll be actually doing the show from Rwanda. That'll be kind of fun. So that's fun.
Great. That's great to hear. And yeah, we'll be throwing some funds your way on the matching side of things to see if we can assist with everything that you're doing over there. We love being a part of that.
You guys are a great sponsor of a golf tournament, all the whole of the 10-9. I forgot how many holes. You guys are fantastic.
Oh, next year, Lord willing, we're planning on at least 12 to 15. I would love to see 18.
I joked and said to my producer Chad opened up his wallet for him and his wife. His wife's just like, let's match Lakey's the Rivers Promise. Go to tell the Lakey show that we're going to do this because she's just thinking it keeps him out of the cigars and booze. There's less money he has to spend there. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm joking. I jest. That's not. She's like, spend it here. You're going to spend it on the hooch if you're not. No, just kidding.
What's an investment? And look, I mean, when you're talking about investing in the lives of people in another country, And look, you've been on these trips. I've been on the trips. And when you go into these places, they wonder in words or look, what are you doing here? And why are you here? And what's your motivation for being here? So, when we can contribute to something that great, I think it's incredible.
Well, it's a season of Thanksgiving. And I'm thinking just as you were talking, you just had kind of a medical situation pop up, looked in the mirror and said, that's not right. Let's go to the ER. And you were blessed enough to live in a country where you had an emergency room that knew exactly how to do it. They had immediate treatment. They weren't using snake oil or anything. And they said, hey, it's going to be this period, but here you go. You get your marching orders and goes on. You live in a country. I live in a country where having shoes is not necessarily a crisis. It's we all have shoes somehow, some way. these people live in a country where if they wake up, look in the mirror, if they had a mirror and their face was, they don't have access to. We should be thankful for what we have and try to help those that don't have. And from medical to shoes, we take care of that for kids.
I was in Durango, Mexico on a mission trip, and it's the scorpion capital of the world. And they said, if you get bit by a scorpion, one of these real small ones, this is where we take you. And they actually took me to the hospital room. It looked like a college dorm room. And I thought, good Lord, please let me not have to come here, because it did not look like a hospital to me. That's for sure. But yeah, look, it's, there's so many things that we have to be thankful for. And anytime you ask me how I'm doing, I try to say I've got too many things to be thankful for than to be anything other than that. And that's really the case, because when you see how people live in other countries, if you can't be thankful for what we have here, then you're just not paying attention. Yeah.
All right, Jay Ratliff, let's dive into some aviation travel. And again, I thank you for your generosity throughout the course of the year to Rivers Promise. But let's talk about some things. We just came through this government shutdown, the air traffic controller crisis, etc. Give me your thoughts. Have we recovered? Did that go as well as could it be expected? Your thoughts on the trimming of flights by the FAA, the air traffic controller. Did we just dodge a bullet?
Well, we did, because everything's going to be back up and running full speed ahead now that we're getting to the busiest travel week of the year next week in Thanksgiving. A lot of people were surprised when the FAA mandated restrictions, which ended 6 a.m. on Monday. The thought was, Jay, are the airlines going to be anywhere close to getting everything back in place? And what I've told people is, the airlines are really good at responding fast. In fact, when you have a bad storm, maybe a blizzard that goes through the Northeast, once it passes, the airlines are very good at getting those silver revenue tubes, all the crews and everything back in the place they need to be in a relatively short fashion. So the fact that we have got the air traffic controller, the government shutdown, all of that stuff resolved, we can get back to normal. Now, we need to define what normal is. Prior to the shutdown, because of the shortage of air traffic controllers, which we still have, obviously, we average about 3,900 delayed flights a day. So when we get to normal, it's right at 4,000 flights a delay is what we tend to have. So, if you look up and see that we've got, 5,000 flight delays or 4,500, recognize that's close to the norm. So everything is as it needs to be. But the FAA felt comfortable that the air traffic controllers were, in fact, going to be coming back into work. Those have been calling off sick to try to go work elsewhere to bring money into their family. So they lifted that restriction at the 40 major airports. But one of the things they found out was that some airlines were non-compliant. Some of these airlines weren't cutting as many flights as they were supposed to. And the FAA is saying, look, we could seek a fine up to $75,000 for every flight that was, in essence, not cut, where you were operating over that limit. Now, I'm saying that would be great for airlines to be held accountable, but I'm telling you right now, if airline ABC was fined $3 million, by the time it got done, it would be negotiated down to maybe $500,000 if they promise never to do it again. I get so tired of the government having teeth and then them backing it off. It's like, come on, who's in charge here, the airlines or the government?
Yeah. Well, you sent me another story that one thing that we did, you and I both agreed that the Biden administration under Pete Buttigieg was putting the screws on some of these airlines about their customer service and the customer getting screwed on these delays. And they actually put some kind of a compensation rule that would require airlines to pay cash, I believe, to consumers. And the Trump administration has rolled that back a little bit, haven't they?
Yeah, in fact, they have totally taken it off the burner, and it's on the back row. And again, because of pressure from the airlines. And this was a Biden administration initiative about a year ago. They came out with this cash compensation rule, for lack of a better word, so that if us as travelers were delayed on a flight, now not a weather delay, but, mechanical, something that, computer issue, something like that with the airline, that we would be entitled to cash compensation. Again, if the delay was 3 hours or more. We would also have guaranteed meals, lodging if necessary, ground transportation if applicable. Well, once the Trump administration came in, the thought was, okay, we could already see some of those things easing. And sure enough, that's what we saw here with the Trump administration through the Department of Transportation saying, no, we're going to we're going to think about this one for a while. And folks, it's locked in a closet, never to be seen again because the airlines threw such a fit. And yes, you and I said frequently that I was never a fan of the Biden administration, but the one thing I did appreciate was the fact, especially the last 2 years, they were holding airlines accountable, unlike any administration I had ever seen before. And I loved it. And sadly, though, when Donald Trump is elected, which I was thrilled to see, airline stocks go up immediately. And people said, gee, why is that? And I said, because airlines have such a good relationship with the Trump administration round one, same thing's going to happen again. And sure enough, we saw that. Boeing, who previously agreed to criminal charges on the two Boeing MAX crashes, after Trump gets elected, goes back and says, we'd like to withdraw some of those guilty pleas and have that readjusted. And it was done. The families were very upset, rightfully so. But again, we have the airlines telling the government what they're going to do. So it's back to business as usual, which is really a sad situation when you think of it, because you have a situation where, sadly, we have time and time again where airlines are fined many times because they weren't following certain safety protocols. Certain things weren't done in a timely fashion as required by the FAA. The airline is fined by $10 million. It's negotiated down to $2 million with the assurance that the airline will never do it again. Well, I guess what? If I have to pay $100,000 in taxes, I'd like to negotiate that down to like $30,000, but that's not going to happen. And the fact that airlines get to do it is it's a frustrating situation.
All right, then we'll find out what's like to move about the country. It's Jay Ratliff. Go to his website, Jay Ratliff, RATLIFF, jratliff.com. If you're not watching the show, if you're listening to the show, it's jratliff.com, and thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day. So jratliff.com is his website. Jay, first of all, talk about what it's like to move about the country today. And starting tomorrow, a lot of folks are going to start traveling. You know, some people take all next week off. Talk about the Thanksgiving week. Are the airlines ready, and what should we be prepared for?
Well, the airlines are going to be ready. And what we're looking at is they're looking at this point in time at seeing a situation where you have the weather's probably my biggest concern for next week. But if you're traveling anytime during the busy travel week of Thanksgiving, and keep in mind, typically the busiest travel day is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And beyond that, the second busiest travel day of the year tends to be the Wednesday before. So what we're looking at here is, it's going to be a busy travel time. You need to make sure you're at the airport 2 hours before departure. And what we're really hoping is for a week of good weather. And obviously no travel issues as far as technical issues with airlines or anything like that. And that everything goes as it's supposed to, because there's no place to put anybody next week. Flights are 100% full. Some are overbooked. Some are slightly undersold, and it's going to be a mess. So if a flight's canceled, it's going to be difficult to get people to their destination. So if your flight happens to be canceled, let's say you're going Denver down to Orlando, and that flight's canceled, give the agent some help. Say, look, get me close. Put me in St. Pete, put me in Tampa, put me in Daytona Beach, something like that, so that I can get out of there as quickly as possible. Even if it's close, I may have to rent a car and, take that last little bit on my own. But what you're looking at is you're giving the agent more cities to get you to in the event your flight's canceled. Now, if you've not bought a reservation, there's still some decent deals out there. If you fly Thanksgiving morning on the 27th, come back Saturday morning, a couple of days later. But other than that, it's going to be a busy travel week. I don't think we're going to set any records, but we're certainly going to see a lot of people taken to the skies, and it's going to be hectic, and hopefully everything will operate as it should.
I'm looking forward to my flights. I fly Tuesday, Denver to Dallas, check on my mother and her elderly health issues. And then Wednesday morning, I fly to, I think, Chicago, which I always dread, especially at this time of year with weather. And then from Chicago to Brussels to Kigali, Rwanda. So I am flying on Wednesday. But because it's United Airlines out of Dallas, it's actually a pretty easy security line there, because not a lot of United, there's only like 2 gates at Dallas-Fort Worth for United Airlines. So it actually is a blessing to not have to be flying out of Denver on a Wednesday.
And to your credit, you're catching an early morning flight. I hope the originator, because those first flights out of the day are the single most important flight of the day for any station. In fact, when I was with Northwest Airlines, you never, ever, ever, ever let that originating flight leave late. If you did, you were on a conference call to one of the vice presidents explaining why, because if that first flight leaves late, that aircraft could be delayed for the rest of the day, which is very costly for an airline. So absolutely, positively, what we look at is making sure that those bad boys get out of there on time. So hats off to you for catching that first flight out in the morning.
Jay Ratliff, it's a pleasure, sir. Glad you're feeling better, my friend. I'll talk to you from Rwanda the next time, 2 weeks from today. Well, next week, Thanksgiving. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for you. And then next week, if the connections work, I'll be doing the show live from Rwanda, and you will be right here in my earballs once again. So, Jay, thank you. Glad you're feeling better. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, sir.
You got it. jratliff.com, jratliff.com. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we had a little globe issue. The globe stopped spinning. We had a hitch in our giddy up, but I think we got it repaired. It's because I changed sides and I was spinning it the wrong way. And I think I had to spin it this way. Before I do this, I want to remind you about Sherry Cree, great sponsor of the show. Make sure if you're talking about moving, buying, selling, I know it's a holiday, Lakey. I got to make a turkey. By the way, PSA, thaw your turkey out. Now's the time to start doing that. You got to have a thawed turkey before you can baste your turkey. I don't know what that means, but yeah, you got to do that. So thaw your turkeys. But if you're thinking, I don't want to deal with real estate. No, listen, now's the time to have a quick conversation with Sherry Cree sometime the next couple of weeks. If you think that next year, 2026, is the time that you need to make a move or you need to sell your home or buy a home, listen, now's the time to do that with Sherry. Homeswithsherry.com. You're going to have a conversation with her. If you're in the Denver Metro I-25 corridor, let's say Denver to Fort Collins area, the Denver Metro up to the Fort Collins Metro area, that northern Colorado into the central Denver, you need to talk to Sherry. You owe it to yourself. I know you might have a friend or you had somebody that you saw at the local bazaar and they gave you a business card and said, if you ever sell your home, call me. You need to interview Sherry Cree. That's what they are. They're interviews or conversations you have. And you need to make sure that you have somebody that's not just the person that lives next door to you, but it's somebody that really can look at things and go, this is a big investment. You need to make the move here, buying or selling, that you need to make the move to where this could possibly create generational wealth for you. And there are certain times and seasons, and you could actually, sometimes by listing your home a month different or a few weeks different, you can actually get a part of the seller's market to where you're going to get more. I mean, literally, the market can change with seasonality, with month to month, and the calendar, and whether it's a buyer's market or seller's market, in very nuanced ways that the average consumer doesn't even recognize. So if you want top dollar for your home to sell, or you want to get the best deal on purchasing, talk to Sherry. It can depend on the area you're moving to. It can depend on the area you're in. Homeswithsherry.com. Great lady, season of generosity. We're thankful for her. She's been to Rwanda. She gives a portion of every part of her proceeds of her commission. She gives that back to the charity of your choice. If you're the client of hers, she donates to your charity a portion out of her pocket, just to say thank you for that. And also, she's thankful for military and veterans and first responders, military veterans and active duty. If you're in that camp of active duty or a veteran, listen, she will help you out by giving a discount on her commissions, just to make the dream of homeownership and better for you. Homeswithsherry.com. 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 Be sure to tell her that you heard about her on the Lakey Unleashed program. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, here it is. This is the magic globe that we spin around, and I think we got Twitter-pated because it was on the other side. So I'm going to go this side. Well, I'll figure it out. See if we had a hitch in our giddy up, but I think we got it fixed. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the stolen meme section of the show. Let's go. Round and round the globe we go. Oh, that's moving good. Or wherever we steal the memes from, no one knows. It's all text here. I'll read it to you just so we're clear. The Grinch never really hated Christmas. He hated people, which is fair. Depends on the people. Round around, we got some weird people hanging on the YouTube recently. That's kind of interesting. I didn't do this one. This guy in the photo is supposedly half Chinese and half Italian. His name is Ravioli. Round and round. Producer Chad did that. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one know. Hillary's talking to Bill. I erased over 30,000 incriminating emails. You couldn't get rid of those few pilot logs? Yeah, I erased all the emails, killed people, and you couldn't get yourself off the pilot's log for the Epstein plane? Lolita Express, what the heck's your problem? Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There's Barack Obama 2010. We solved the healthcare crisis. And there's now Chuck Schumer saying, it's the greatest healthcare crisis we've ever seen. We demand free healthcare for illegals. Yeah. I thought Obamacare fixed it all, and yet now they're saying it's broken. Figure that one out. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Zipping through these quickly today. To all the Democrats pretending to care about Epstein's victims, spare me the fake outrage. You're the same ones letting grown men go into little girls' bathrooms. Shut up. That. Right there. Fake outrage. Fake outrage. If they were really concerned about the Epstein victims, why are they fighting ICE for removing child sex traffickers from our country? They don't seem to really care about the victims, do they? No. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Saturday morning cartoons and a bowl of cereal without a care in the world other than what cartoon is next. Remember that? I had the lineup. I was an ABC guy. That's where they had the Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, Super Twin Powers, Activate, Wonder Twins. What are they called? Yeah, that's a good day. Kids don't do that. Are there Saturday morning cartoons? I don't even know. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. If you're the oldest child, just remember you're the reason your parents said, yeah, let's do that again. Imagine being that inspiring. I was the youngest child, and my parents said, let's not do that again. I'm surprised I've dealt with that trauma in my life. Yeah. No joke. It was the size of my noggin. I'm not joking. Round around the globe we go. My mom said, I ain't doing that again. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There it is. China has and they have said that we have stolen all the intellectual property that we can today, and no more shall be allowed. So sorry about that. China, we'll stop now. All right, don't forget we have some matching funds on the table. Producer Chad has opened up his wallet, and he has decided to match gifts up to $500 today for our charity work in Africa. Let me kind of give you the list of what I can see. Delilah has provided it for you. There's Lisa just pitched in $100 this morning. Arloa, thank you, Arloa, $25. Producer Chad Scott just did $250. So what are we at? $350, $375. There's $500 of matching funds to get all of the producer Chad's money from his wallet. He's going to match up to $500. If you can make a donation now, $10 becomes $20, $25 will become $50, and $50 will become $100. If you want to give $100, that becomes $200. You get the idea. That's how the matching funds work, and they're on the table right now. And again, they're all supporting the work of our Christmas gift buying that we will be doing very soon when I go to Africa next week. And we're going to start the shoe shopping and the gift buying and prepare for the Christmas. And as producer Chad said, this is a great time of year for us to remind them, as we do at Legacy Christian Academy every day, about the reason for this season that maybe previous years has not been that exciting for them. They knew people had a good time. They didn't have a good time. They lived in poverty. And now they're starting to realize the celebration. But we make sure that celebration stays around the focus of the real meaning of Christmas. And so we appreciate you helping. Producer Chad and his wife said $500. They'll match up to that. And we're about $375 if I'm looking at things correctly. $25 right now, producer Chad will match it. $50, he'll match it. $100, he'll match it up to that $500 amount. And so if you can help out right now, maybe only $5. Make him give $5. If it's $2, he'll give $2. It'll be $4. No gift is too small. No gift is too big. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Arloa. I'm trying to see as I work here. There might be a couple of others that have come in, and I appreciate all of you for participating. And tomorrow morning, I'd like to make sure we sign on here and make sure that those matching funds have been used up. And if you'd like to reach out to us about a matching fund kind of proposition, we'd love to highlight you. Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday, then Monday, and then we're off for the rest of the week. So you got 2 more shows. And we appreciate you being a part of this show. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Go to riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com, and I mean this. We went a little overtime today, but welcome back to Jay Ratliff. Don't forget the donation. The producer Chad matching funds are out there. Riverspromise.com. Go donate now. Riverspromise.org. May God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.